Hey everyone, welcome to the Wrench Ride and Repeat channel. If you've been following along the channel, you know that we've been working on this engine swap saga for way too long. And the black bike has been done for a couple months. She's ready to go for spring, so that one's done. Gray, just like the Raven bike, has been one, you dig into it and it's one problem after another. So you're waiting on parts, you're doing this, you find new things, you got to wait for parts on that. And it kind of rolled on like that. So my dreams of doing this all in like one big epic weekend, an engine swap, no, not even close. No. So Gray's almost done. We got to put the primary, the clutch in, and the compensator chain and everything else in the primary. Put the brand new shiny exhaust on. I can't wait to see and hear that. And we'll be ready for some fluids and a turnover and see if I might even get a heat cycle going soon. So stick with us today. We're going to put this inner primary together, and we'll move on from there. Thanks for watching. Wrench, Ride, and Repeat. Okay, so we're over here at the bike now, and I can't stress this enough. When you read the manual and it says, hey, inspect the parts, do this, look through everything, inspect, inspect, and inspect. So I went to go start planning to put the primary in here, and here's the compensator ramp, and you can see that goopy crappy up there, and I just happened to catch that. So yeah, we're gonna wipe that out, and I didn't know that that was a magnet for this stuff, like the magnet in the primary is. So we'll clean this out, and we'll get to going on this. So here we're all prepped for putting this primary, the clutch basket in, the compensator in, and everything will mount up here. There's a few small things that you really need to know. For this 1989, there's a little Woodruff key, right? Okay. And he'll sit right down in here. And he's a little tricky to get on because when you put the clutch hub on, you flip this over here real quick. There's the slot for the key. So you have to kind of put it on blind. And recommendation is you take a little bit of grease and you put the grease down in there and you put the Woodruff key in, and that should hold it from sliding, because if you don't line that up right and you go to push this on, it's going to push that Woodruff key in like this. And then when you go to put your clutch hub on, it'll wobble, and when you rotate it, it kind of wobbles wrong. So you know something's wrong. I use a little bit of grease, and I'm going to get my straight roller out and put that behind there to keep that from riding up and out. So let's see if we can get this going. Bob should be over here soon, and we'll get some good recording done. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to put I got the slot greased up. I got the Woodruff key greased up. There's no direction to it. It's the same, it's symmetrical on both sides. And then you push that sucker down in there. Make sure it's flat. Okay, and then we're ready to go for this. Now, this thing here, I also re-greased the ramp here. Get a shot of the re-greased that. That was all nasty and grimy. So the trick here is to put this all on at once, or at least get it semi-on all at once. Put our chain up over, get a compensator in there, get a tensioner in there, and I think we're just gonna try and set this up in here somehow. All right. Really don't know how they expect you to do this. Okay. Something's not right. Oh, we can get this guy on here. Get that out of the way, or try to at least. And then we'll set everything up in. Right. Sometimes you got to be a bit of a magician, because then things want to start falling out. Okay, there's that part. Get this front one on here. There we go. Okay. Now, this is the tricky part I was telling you about, and I hope my roller works. Get down in there. Okay. All right. I think get the roller out of there. There's no wobble. Yeah. First try. That's the first time I've ever done that job, and it went right on without having to line it up and tinkering. So I think the metal rule, keeping the Woodruff key in place, really does the job. So yeah, It's on there. It's not. See, if it was, this wasn't on here, this wasn't on here, this would wobble real bad. So the fact that that's nice and solid, we're good to go. So put our compensator ramp back on. Maybe. Come on, compensator ramp. No, that's the right way. Okay. There we go. Okay, there's that. And put our cover on. We won't be able to put the cover on until we put the bolt on. So let's do the chain tensioner here, hopefully. And I didn't line that up, and I don't want to pull that apart. So I'm going to undo those. Let me grab a screwdriver real quick. Okay, so after a quick break, we went ahead and did the tensioner. So that's all good to go. You don't want it, solid tight. So just make sure it rides on the tensioner correctly. And what we're going to do next is slap the clutch plates in, put that all together, and then we'll do the compensator, and then we'll torque everything down at once. Besides, it takes a little finagling. Come on now. There we go. They're a little thin. So I got a message from a guy in Colombia the other day on my eBay. He wanted, so that tells me my international sales are getting out there. So maybe we'll get some big bucks. Europeans and South Americans restoring old Harleys. Right. He was looking for that Kuriokin air cleaner thing I have, and I wanted 140 for it, and he offered me 60. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you have to go through an international broker, but that's 43% of what I was asking for. We're almost ready for the spring plate. And let me see, this goes that, and that. Get the nuts and bolts ready. Oh, I'm going to run these past the wire wheel real quick. Okay, there we go. There's the clutch pack in. We'll put our pressure plate on, put our spring on, and then this is the part I was telling you about earlier. On here there are, let me see where I can see it. Here we go, A, B, and C. And there's different tensions on your clutch. So if your clutch slipping, you go to C. If it's if it's acting up or it's too tight, you go to A or B. So I usually leave it on A. You can see where the washer been marked there. So let me get some Loctite going on these bolts. We'll get a couple of these run in. And then we'll put the insides in. There we go. Wait. It's a little tricky because it's... And what I could never figure out is how this was set. And I read through the manual, and the manual is really not really descriptive for that one I have. So concave in, I think that's how it goes. And, so you set it to A, and you're like, well, what about the other, 3 bolts? Because there's no letters on this. Well, it's because there's it's A all the way around. It's just, you have 4 bolts. You set the first one to A, and everybody's A. Okay. Let's keep going here. We'll get these in, and then we're going to look up some torque specs and get ready to torque all this stuff down. Get the counter one here. Ooh. And these have to be torqued down in spec, in order, so that they're all pushing on this spring plate at the same time with the same amount of tension. All right, get that last one started. these in here real quick. Okay, in. Okay. And then my favorite thing, a lock ring. Make sure you're in your groove all the way around. Oh, you know what? Not yet. I got ahead of myself. Holy cow. We got to get that nut on the inside. We got to torque that down first. Slippery little buggers. All right, so we're going to put our clutch hub nut on. This holds the clutch hub on, right? This is counterclockwise to install. So we're going to go counterclockwise just to get this started. There we go. And then I'm going to run it in with the drill a little bit. Yep, that's going on. All right, and then book says 50 to 60 foot-pounds of torque. So we're going to put 55 on it. Lock my wrench. Okay. And hopefully we can do this without the engine turning over. Whoa! Sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I need my special tool. Sorry. I'm done. Probably fell somewhere. All right, you good? Yep. All right, so I can't find my little plastic ramp to put in between the sprockets, so we're going to use a brass drift rod again. Just stick them in there. It fits in the teeth real nice, and it'll stop that chain from going. And there we go. See, didn't even put that much on it. It doesn't hurt the chain. That's why I use brass. It's nice and soft. All right. So now that guy's torqued down. Now we can put our adjuster in. Okay, get him in all the way. Fight the lock ring again. All right. And this goes, if you feel it, there's a beveled edge and a flat edge. And you'd think the flat edge would go in, but it actually it sticks out. You can see how the washer's a little worn there. So, oh, come on. There we go. Get him in there. Oh, maybe not far enough, huh? Oh, that's not in there all the way. Okay. Yeah, I don't like that. That's not in all the way. Maybe I do have that backwards. Let's flip it over. I bet you I do. Okay, does that look? Yep, it's in now. Okay, so you can see it in past where you put the screwdriver right in there. I don't know if you can zoom in on that, Bob, but you can see the ring on the inside where before it wasn't. So the flat side of the washer or the lock washer does go in, lock ring. It does go in there. So, okay, we'll leave the tensioner a little loose for now. We got to set that. All right, let's move on to the compensator. Put this on here. It'd be nice if we can get this to line up with the ramps, you know, where it's in the middle. So, oh, I guess we can. Okay, great. And then we put our outer on. And before we do that, I had some, said using medium Loctite, so that's just what we're going to do. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. The blue, good. We'll just put a bunch on it. Okay. And this is regular, right? It's not counterclockwise or anything, but it's got a lot of threads, so we're going to use the big boy here. I'm going to have a lot of editing to do, Bob. A lot of editing. Forgot to put fucking piece on it. Oh. I was like, that doesn't look right. Okay, there we go. Oh, that thing's heavy. So get that up center. All right, I don't need this. And then let me look at the manual real quick. And that is 90 to 100 foot-pounds. So we're going to use our brass rod again. Just our torque wrench here. All right, there's 95 foot-pounds. Get our brass rod out of there. That came in very handy. I don't know what happened to my little ramp tool. I'm going to have to tear this garage apart to find it because it is definitely needed for this job. So let's update. Clutch hubs in, torque down. We have to torque these down. They're like 15 foot-pounds or something like that. This is clutch down. Chain is good. Actually, that's a little too loose. We might just tighten that up a little bit. There we go. Where are we at there? That's too loose still. There it is. Now that's too tight. Remember I was telling you about it being too tight? Sometimes you gotta play with them a little bit to get them right where you want them. There we go. That looks about right. Yeah, that's good. So let me torque him down. Give him a twist. I think I tightened those down. They're locked down anyway. They got Loctite on them. They're good, and their lock tabs are on. And let me get the torque wrench out. All right, so the manual for these bolts calls for 87 to 90. Wait, yeah, what did I say? 80 to 97 inch pounds. So we had to convert inch pounds to foot pounds. So I just took like 85 as somewhere in between the two torque specs, and divided by 12. We got about 7 foot-pounds. So we're going to torque each one of these down. You want to do them in a cross bolt pattern because it all has to kind of go draw in at the same time. Oop, that's the wrong size. Yeah, just let that run for a second. I gotta find some adapters. Now we're gonna do this. Okay, so we'll start with this guy. Actually, till I get these ready for torque, I'm just gonna spin them on with the ratchet real quick. Don't do it with the power drill. You get a better feel with it by hand. Actually, if you just do these, in a cross bolt pattern, and till they stop. That's what it's. Okay, so that one just stopped. Boom, no more. Okay, so we'll do this guy. He stopped. Run that guy till they stop. Okay, so now they're all bottomed out. They're stopped where they should be. Now we can torque them. So we'll start with this guy. Uh-oh. That sounded like a broken bolt. Okay, so that was a bolt that snapped. I found out from some other information that they wear out over time. They stretch from being taken off and put on. And so then when you go to torque them, they just snap right down. So it took me a week. It's a week later now in YouTube time. And I got a new bolt kit for them. And I got a new locking tab for the tensioner. And we've gone ahead and put all this on. It's all torqued down nice. Nothing snapped this time, so I know I wasn't crazy. We got the tensioner on there. Chain's pretty good. Starter's in. And now we're going to put the rest of the gasket on and put the cover on and put some fluid in it. See if it holds. We're good to go. And we can move on with everything else. All right, so we got our gasket fitted on now, and it's hanging nice. All right, sometimes they like to pop off on you. All the holes are aligned. We're good. We're almost ready to put the cover on, but first I want to adjust the clutch. So let's just go ahead and adjust the clutch and get that out of the way. All right, so what we want to do first is make sure this is all free play. There's no tension on that or the nut. All right. And then we come over here and where's my wrench? I need to break that lock adjuster off. This is not a stock cable, so it's a little different, a little tricky to kind of handle. All right, so now we're going to start with the clutch adjustment, and to do that, we're going to start here at the clutch itself. We're going to set the adjuster and set the adjustment on the clutch plates and how that whole mechanism works. So right now the clutch is compressed, right? If we turn this, it would turn the back wheel. So the clutch is compressed, and when you squeeze a handle in, on the other side is the actuator, and it pushes this, what's behind here is a rod. It pushes this rod out, and that's what lets your clutch plate separate so you can shift. So what we do is we back that nut all the way off, and we run that screw in. Oh, it was almost there anyway. Okay. So I'm going to use, let me see. Let me run that in anyway. Hold on a second. Okay. Run this in. Okay, so we had a little bit of a bump in the road. The clutch adjustment or the clutch ramp was in the wrong position. We ran all the play or all the threads out of the adjuster, and it wasn't set up right. So we took the side of the transmission case off. We fixed the adjuster. We even took the cable off and moved it under the frame a little bit. So we're back to where we were, and now this runs in a lot further. If it's not adjusted right, it'll rub on the inside of your derby cover. So it's in, and it's just touching, and if you do that, there's your quarter of a turn. So we'll hold that there. Run our wrench up over. Tighten our nut down. Actually, I'm not ready for the wrench yet. Ugh. Okay. Now we adjust the cable and adjust the play out of the handle, and it should be good. So let's do that next. That might just be perfect. There's our magic nickel. And just, I mean, maybe a half a turn on the adjuster. Let me get back here. Measure that again. Okay, see, that's still a lot of play there. You got to fidget with things, make sure they're in the right place before you call it good. Aha, see, I took that play out. I turned it, I don't know, 3/4 of a turn. Now it's too tight. Make sure that's out all the way. Yeah. Oh, it's just, the nickel just stuck. So I'm going to take this with the wrench and give it, part of a turn. What you want to do is, that's the end of your cable right there. And you don't want that, you want it to move a little bit. See, it's moving just a little. It's still a little too tight for me. Do we put the cable back in? Yeah, see, that's still a little bit too tight. So we'll run this adjuster in again a little bit. Like I said, take your time. It's little micro adjustments that make things work the way they're supposed to work. Okay, see how it flops around in there a little bit? That's when your handle's out, your clutch is engaged. You want a little bit of play in there, but no tension on that cable, or eventually it'll wear your cable out. So let's see now how we go. Yeah. Well, what I'm going to do too is, this is a new build. I'm not going to do the nickel thing so much. I mean, I could give it just a little bit more. There we go. Ta-da! All right. So that is adjusted properly. We put the lock nut. Oh, no, it isn't. Come here and get a picture of this. all that adjustment we did doesn't count because that's not all the adjuster isn't straight. So go like this. Okay. And then still we have a lot of playback up there. So, all right. So let's do this again. Yeah, that's a bit too much play. So we'll run that out. We probably had it in the right place the first time. Make sure everything's in. Make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. Now this is an aftermarket clutch cable. So it's not like, I mean, it's like a stock, but it's not. I mean, the adjustment's kind of the same. Yeah, okay, I like that. Let's check our nickel when we're at it. Yeah, that's a lot of slop still. All right, keep going. Where's my adjuster? There we go. Oy. Can I bang on anything else? A little bit more. Okay, still loose in there. Oh, let me get it on. Okay, I like that nickel spot right there. All right, now the cable's right. The adjustment's right. Let's put our lock nut down in place. And the clutch will be adjusted. Now, that's not the end all be all of it, because once we get the bike started and you go for a ride, the clutch might drag or it might slip a little bit. So then you still have to come back and maybe adjust these two a little bit more. But like you said, it's not very hard. Big wrench for the lock nut. And that is not that big. All right, so hold the bottom of the adjuster. And get the top nut. And just squeeze them together. Okay. Now the tricky part is getting your boot up all over that stuff, and I'll do that later because if I have to get back in here and adjustment, I don't want to have to screw with that boot. So not right. That's squeezing in all the way, and it's barely pushing that out. So that ramp isn't right. Cut. Okay, so we had to pause there. I went to pull this in. It didn't pull in. That's because on the other side, and I'm sorry I didn't show this, underneath the transmission cover where the cable goes in, that ramp has to be all the way, like you have to set the cable so the handle's all the way out and the cable's all in there, and you can't let that ramp move at all. So you have to gently put it on and run the screws a little bit and then tighten everything down. Then we come back over in here and redid this adjustment, and then we come up here and redid this adjustment, and now clutch is working properly. That's about all the further it comes out. See how it springs the plate? Okay, we're good to go. So that's about it. Now we're ready to put the cover on. We can put the shifter gear on, and I think this is going to be it for the day. I might put the cover on here real quick. I'm just running out of time. So let's do that. All right. Okay, we got our gasket on. Got our cover. Make sure your surfaces are all nice and clean. There's a little bit of schmutz there. Okay, just a little bit of leftover gasket material. We're just going to scrape that off real quick, best we can. Be sure not to mar your metal up. I'm not pressing very hard on this at all. And try not to, cut yourself. I think I need a new blade. All right, so I took the razor, and there's a little bevel here. That's why you can't go flat on it. So you gotta just take your time and use the corner. All right, wipe out some of that stuff the gasket stuff we just got down in there. Okay, so we got the surface all cleaned off, the heavy stuff, and then just run yourself around with a scouring pad. Make sure there's no chunks of anything sitting there. There's the spots we put the gasket off. All right, now we're ready to see if we can get this sucker to go on. We get top screw ready. Nice and easy. You don't want to bump that gasket off. There we go. Get the dowels lined up. Run this guy in real quick. All right, it should hang on the dowel pins. We run him in just enough to hold the case on. Okay, there we go. Case is on. I'm not going to bore you with putting all the bolts in, but we're going to run all the bolts in, and we're going to put some fluid in it. We had to pull that derby cover off anyway, Bob. Got to put fluid in it. Forward controls, a horn bracket, and put the header back on because we had to do that to get into the transmission. So I think we're going to stop here, and we'll see you soon. All right, go ahead and pause it. Okay, everyone, that's where we're at. We got the primary all installed, bolted down, torqued in, replaced some bad bolts, replaced a couple other little parts, and it's all buttoned up. We got fluid in it. So I'm going to call that good. I went to move on to doing the timing and run into some weird electrical issues. So stay tuned for that. We're going to do that next week. And hopefully we can figure out why this thing's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So until next time, thanks for watching Wrench Ride and Repeat. We'll see you next week.